For the stock market or for Tesla?
Tesla.
Well, I want to know how they're defending this now. How long have we been talking about Tesla now for? It's like 2 years?
2 years. 2 years.
I've had it in my going to zero column for...
The advice provided on this podcast is general advice only. All statements made are considered by the participants to be accurate, but accuracy cannot be guaranteed. It has been prepared without taking into account your objectives, financial situations, or needs. All participants in this podcast, including guests, may have a financial interest in any or all of the products or services mentioned. Before acting on this advice, you should consider the appropriateness of the advice, having regard to your own objectives, financial situations, and needs. If any private products are detailed on this podcast, you should obtain a product disclosure statement relating to the products and consider its contents before making any decisions. Where quoted, past performance is not indicative of future results.
Welcome to the Money Path Podcast with your hosts, Bob Iacchino and Mike Arnold, founders of Path Trading Partners. Bob Iacchino is out on the road for Path Trading Partners, and I will be sitting in for him. You can always go to pathtradingpartners.com and check out Motive Wave. You can download your 14-day free trial right there. So let's join Stafford and Mike with a casual conversation on news in the markets.
All right, so let's start with the Tesla recap. Last time we left off, we had the funding secured, 420 funding secured. We now realize that 420 was secured, not necessarily the funding, but they brought on Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs and some legal advisors to try to sort of parade stuff around, like we're going to actually consider taking it private. That lasted just for a few days, and it was all right. No, we're not. They're under SEC investigation now. There's multiple class action lawsuits, not only from shorts, but for longs, because a lot of people purchased more of the stock based off of, hey, it's going private at 420. Well, as we're talking, the stock's down to 266. Cars were piling up. Model 3s have been piling up on lots. They're trying to match them with buyers because they're obviously, at least for the rear-wheel drive, there hasn't been the demand that was out there. So they're doing some of the all-wheel drives, but it's just a mess. It's just turned into a major crap show over the last couple weeks. Elon's quadrupled down, on his the diver thing from Thailand. He went off the rails again the other day. He apologized, but then he went off the rails, calling him a pedophile again and going after him again. He can't seem to let that go. It's just been one thing after another. The board said, we still have confidence in Elon and blah, 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 blah. Well, we'll see what happens after. I mean, what happened last night? I have not. I've seen stuff fly across the news on it, but I did not watch it. What you did, or you listened to it, or you paid attention to it? What was going on with that, Stafford?
Well, we've not really seen the CEO of Tesla, Elon Musk, in public, right? We've kind of seen some Twitter posts, and they're all crossing the line. Financially, legally, libel, as the diver from Thailand is now suing him. So we've never really seen him in an extended interview talk recently. So going on the Joe Rogan show is it kind of equivalent to doing a stand-up comedy act. It's very loose. So Rogan's a professional fighter, so his kind of thing is the Muhammad Ali rope-a-dope. Kind of wear your opponent down until they get to a point where they knock themselves out. And then then Joe Rogan pulls out a spliff. And Rogan's smart, and he's has been kind of slowly dropping more and more kind of subversive trigger words. And he lights it up, and he takes a big drag. And kind of like Elon's eyes light up. He go. Now, Elon has been almost comatose and lethargic this entire interview for 2 hours and 30 minutes. But then his eyes kind of light up. and goes, you know, what's that there? Yeah, what's that there? He's like, yeah, you know, this marijuana, blah blah blah. And Rogan goes, I know you can't do this because of the shareholders. And Elon goes, is it legal? And Joe, because they're in California, he goes, yeah, it's legal. So then Elon reaches over and grabs it. And then it's over. You want to see pictures of this? It's everywhere. This is, you know, it's already done.
Anything about the Boring Company?
They did talk about the flamethrowers. Elon said that his favorite movie is Spaceballs. That's a red flag right there. Because there's a movie in Spaceballs where they show a Spaceballs flamethrower because of merchandising, and that's where he got the idea. And he said he kind of wished he didn't do that, sell that flamethrower. But he did talk about the Boring Company and earthquakes and the problem with he said it's a hobby company. But yeah, they talked about that. A lot of it was like pseudo psychology stuff, entry level sophomoric psychology stuff, even sophomoric climate atmosphere stuff. I mean, I don't know how many people can really make Joe Rogan look like a genius, but Elon Musk made Joe Rogan look like Einstein.
Well, that's not the only thing with that's not just this interview, because now we just learned that their new chief accounting officer's only been on the job for, you know, a few weeks, just resigned and walked away from a $10 million equity grant. That's the second chief accounting officer that's left this year. They
filed for that, right? They have to do a filing?
They did. He actually left on Tuesday. They just did the 8K today. So
did they show him the real books? That's the question, right?
Well, it's not good when you have two chief accounting officers resign. I mean, he said he was leaving because he wasn't the pace within the company here. The direct quote, his name was Dave Morton. He joined just a month ago. He was leaving because, quote, the level of public attention placed on the company, as well as the pace within the company, has exceeded my expectations. Well, I can see the public attention that's been put on the company because, you know, that's all over the place.
Yeah, that's a convenient reason, but it's probably not the reason.
No, so he's gone, and then you had the chief personnel officer who was on leave of absence, said she's not coming back. So essentially, the head of HR is gone.
Well, who is Elon going to report to after his public display of drug use, which is against their corporate policy?
I thought no. He said, you know, he talked to another reporter last night. Where is it? There's something about the drug use. All right. In a subsequent email response to a question, this is with a reporter about whether Tesla's drug test employees, Musk wrote, quote, our policy allows trace amounts of THC during work times, provided they are below the safety limit, much like a minimum alcohol level. So
I've never heard that, but I'm not really steeped in that world. So I don't know.
So, you know, it's all over the place. What's really, it's going to be very interesting. I'm just concerned because, you know, you have a lot of issues with these Model 3s, period. They're turning out to be not a very well-built car. A lot of people are buying them because, you know, this is the Tesla they could afford, which is great. You know, the Model X, S, and X sales are starting to take a hit. You know, you have the Jaguar I-Pace out now. Mercedes just announced their EV that's coming out. You know, we've talked about the Porsche one coming out, the Audi one coming out. So besides that, it looks like they have major parts issues because there's all over the Tesla boards. There are people talking about, I've had my Model S or X in the shop for weeks to months, and they can't get the parts, probably because they're out of cash. Or the suppliers have cut them off saying it's only cash on demand, and they're taking all their money and building the Model 3. So they're losing customer base because people are getting fed up of paying either their lease or their car payments and saying, I don't have a car to drive and you can't fix my car. It's just getting worried. And what I'm most worried about is this is turned into a soap opera, but people, again, a lot of people I know buy the Tesla dip. And every time it goes down, it's just buy the dip. Well, this might be the dip that it's going to rally back a little. I mean, it's rallied back a little today, but this is now selling any rallies. This is off the hinges. And then people have sunk. I mean, people have bought $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 Model 3s because they wanted some kind of Tesla. They've been waiting years and they couldn't get the $35,000. So they've secured. I've seen things. I borrowed more money because I really wanted my Tesla. Well, Tesla can't even fix its own cars on the road now. There are people who have over-leveraged to buy Teslas, and I think this is going to end very poorly for a lot of people, and that's really why we're bringing this to the forefront, especially the stockholders. You got to be careful. You got to do your due diligence into what's going on. Elon's sort of going off the rails. He was off the rails before, but now it's really off the rails. He's almost like he's under SEC investigation. You don't go smoking weed on a podcast when you're already under SEC investigation. Probably not the best decision. I don't even know what's going on with these kind of decisions.
I do. It was really evident to see.
What's going on?
He has no control over peer pressure. I saw it, and I commented on it. He has no peer pressure control. When Rogan said, you want this, you want this, you want another drink, you want to do this, he couldn't say no. He wants to be the cool kid.
Well, the board's so far been very complicit. I don't know if they can keep being complicit because...
Well, the board is different lawyers than Elon, so they're not connected anymore.
Well, we'll have to see what happens because at this point, I mean, he's going to have to be replaced. It's not looking good. And he is essentially Tesla. That's why I think they've been very hesitant to replace him because he is Tesla.
Well, they also can't replace him because any good executive has already quit.
Some in less than a month.
The interesting thing is I think when this thing goes tits up, it's just going to brick all these cars because these cars don't work off the grid.
No, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
There's going to be a ton of sheet metal, many tons of sheet metal, and it's going to be an attractive sculpture. But when the grid goes down or they go bankrupt or receivership or whatever would happen, none of this stuff is going to roll.
Well, I mean, that's the interesting thing. If it does go bankrupt at some point, somebody will pick up the name for Tesla if it's not too tarnished by that point. But other than that, this is even more unbelievable than I've...
Well, in the words of Emperor Palpatine...
Oh, boy.
Everything is happening as I have foreseen. We've been talking about this for 2 years.
Yep. But it's going to burn a lot of people, though, so that's what I'm most worried about. That's sort of why we're talking about it, and that's why it's been my going to zero column, because if it's not going to zero, it's going down.
I wonder if what's happening right now at the markets are institutionals slowly getting out. I know a lot of them have, but they're still...
They have been getting out there because they release their stuff quarterly, so we saw even some of them were unwinding in Q1. We don't know what they're doing in Q2, but based off this behavior, I don't think they're net buyers because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, or if they're running with their funds to do due diligence, and if there's stuff going on that they know about that could be detriment to the company, then they have to get out of those shares. So if you're going net in at this point, wow, you could face your own lawsuits.
They're moving the bag holders over to the hardcore believers. And let me tell you, the hardcore believers have been told over and over and over again what's happening, because hardcore believers pay attention to the story in the stock. And they have, at this point, been told what's going on. So I don't know how much pity I can have for people who are stubborn to figure it out. I mean, at some point, the skeptics are going to prove themselves right.
Yeah. So
I feel bad for the pension funds that get wrapped up in this, right? That's what I feel bad for. Individual bag holders, you buy the ticket, you take the ride. But it's people who don't know that they're in this.
And there's a lot of people still buying the cars that don't know. I mean, now it's sort of hard to ignore based off the behavior of the last month. But as you pointed out, if the company goes to zero, you might be sitting on a car that A, is not serviceable, B, that in some ways might not even be able to drive until somebody puts the grid back up.
Yeah.
Did you see the little thing on that all-wheel drive? Elon promised the all-wheel drive version has 2 independent motors and either one could operate. Did you?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know. I know all about the performance version that you can buy that was only software.
Well, this is when you buy the all-wheel drive. He originally marketed as, if one of the electric motors were to go out, you'll be fine because it can operate fully on the other one. It just came out the other day that that's not true.
How do you turn an electrical motor with hard magnets off?
Well,
you can't do that, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's just another thing. We're sort of beating a dead horse at this point, but there's just a lot of stuff, and people just need to do their due. Whether you're a car owner, a prospective car owner, or an investor in the stock at this point, you really need to do your due diligence and be comfortable with your decisions. And especially if you're a stockholder, know where you're getting out. If you haven't already, know what price your stop loss is. If this keeps going and unraveling, don't just ride it all the way down. If you're thinking of buying a Tesla at this point, look into the issues with the cars, because if your car, maybe no fault of yours, gets hit, it could be in the shop for months.
It already is. That's already the case right now.
Where you're making payments and you don't have a car.
That's already happening right now.
Yeah, I know. And that's where
there are people who have sold their car to Tesla. Tesla did not pay off the previous car loan, and then the bank is going after the previous owner, and they're paying car payments on a Tesla that they don't have. You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
There are cars that are being bought by Tesla as a trade-in, and they're not paying the car loans off in time.
Which again is not. We'll put that in the negative category. So, in order to make this not solely about Tesla, how about some cryptos? Boy, Bitcoin's taken a beating over the last few days again.
Well, Mt. Gox has a lot of Bitcoin still. Yeah, Mt. Gox was that the legal issue that happened. I don't really know the full story, but legally, there's an organization that has to sell off this Bitcoin that was part of some sort of fraud that happened years and years ago, and they sort of time all their dump.
It's interesting. We just follow the chart patterns and what the charts are telling us, and it seems to be working pretty well.
Better than traditional, right?
Yeah, I mean they're very reliable. It's been quite good. It's been a lot of fun. Still falling. Ethereum's been horribly weak. That's been really, really slammed. So, again, if you're in cryptocurrencies, you should definitely be looking at our YouTube channel. It's interesting now. We do have a couple potential double bottoms, which I will be highlighting, but these are, again, very aggressive double bottoms. Ethereum right now trading at 218 at one of our key levels we talked about. Would need to get a move above 235 to trigger this sloppy double bottom. But again, that's only a possible rally back. Not even. Well, let's see where would that be? Possible rally back to the 257 area. So these are things. This has wiped out a lot of people. A lot of people started chasing at the end of last year, didn't know what they were getting into, and it's caused them problems too. It's sort of the theme of this show, to be careful what you get into and know what you're investing in or know what you're buying, and don't just go in blind, because there are consequences. So
how's cash? How's the dollar? How's the dollar? How's cash? If you were
how's
just
the
in
dollar
cash,
index?
yeah, if you're just in cash, how's that for an investment?
The dollar index is trading 95.31. It's back into consolidation. You know, it ran up to 90, pretty much 97, dropped back a bit. That's all trading back and forth off these tariffs and the tariff news, and the dollar's still holding up nicely, not really weakening against the dollar. When we say the dollar index is against a basket of currencies, because it is a reserve currency, so it has to be valued against a basket of currencies. Other than that, we've had a minor correction in the FANG stocks. The FANGs have corrected. Apple finally pulled back a bit after running up to 229.67, pulled back nicely into the daily rotation zone, and now rotating back up, back to 225. So that's still holding up. Amazon also pulling back nicely into the daily rotation zone, got down to what was the low here. This is why we talk about the rotation zones, whether it's on cryptos. I'll talk about it on Tesla. Sometimes it's been on other stocks. It's a concept we use to where to watch for rotations back up in case you want to be a purchaser of stock or of cryptos or something. Or if you're looking to sell when something's going down, it rallies in the rotation zone. But this went down to 1935, now back up to 1972 after peaking over 2050. What would they? The $1 trillion company, Amazon, hit $1 trillion status. So lots of interesting things. Let's see what Netflix is. Netflix, some of the other FANGs aren't holding up as well. Netflix has been one. It's rallying a bit, but it's lost its luster. Facebook definitely lost its luster. So be careful. Don't just go into the FANGs blindly anymore. Microsoft's still holding up okay, but it's starting to lose momentum. So the only two that are holding up the best, and I think they will have a bigger correction at some point, are Apple and Amazon. Hey, Stafford, when's the iPhone event?
The 12th, right?
Is it September 12th?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's coming up.
And what is there are three phones. There's the one that has the LCD. That's $799, I think. Then there's the traditional size that the previous iPhone 10 was. That's going to be probably $899 and something like that. And then there's going to be the large one. What's the large one supposedly going to be called?
I have no idea.
Tell me if this is a good name. Just tell me your first inclination when I say it. Just say good or bad. The iPhone XS Max.
What?
Exactly.
What?
So
that's not a phone name.
So the big iPad, the 12-inch iPad, is that like the Maxi Pad or something?
Oh boy, they're going to call it what?
The iPhone XS Max.
What is that going to do?
I don't know. I guess plus, it was not a good connotation for Apple.
I don't know.
Is the cheap phone going to be called the Light? What is this, a soda company? I mean, John Scully was the CEO of Pepsi way back in the day when he ran Apple, so.
All right, so phone event next week.
So Bob's in New York. Bob's doing a lot of Bloomberg television. Bob's very busy right now, so I'm filling in for his spot, doing the second part of the second across the table from Mike on the show here.
Yeah, so that's just wrapping up. We wanted to get something out there, especially with all the Tesla news. I'll be putting up another Tesla fun technical analysis on the YouTube channel probably around the same time this podcast goes out, so watch for that if you want to know what the key levels are for Tesla that we're watching. And other than that, that's all I have.
Okay, thanks for listening. I'm Stafford.
And I'm Mike Arnold, and we'll talk to everyone soon. Bye for now.